Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. That's really loud. My name is Alison Kuhns, and I am a second-year law student here at Maine School of Law. I am originally from Maine. I grew up just north of Augusta, and I've been very interested in two different things that this research covered. There's first the way that we can use kind of unexpected angles of the law to address issues of social injustice, and then also the way that very local government action can be incredibly powerful, especially in a state like Maine. The cities, towns, municipalities have a lot of control, and they can make a lot of changes in the lives of the people that live in those towns. So my research is on a type of ordinance called inclusionary zoning, and I focused on Portland's ordinance. A little bit of background information. There is no question that there is a housing crisis nationally. Portland is not exempt from this. Portland has a serious issue with housing, not just the amount of housing, but especially affordability. Some background numbers, can't really read that from there, but my poster is out there, so you can read them all in detail after the presentations. So some background numbers: if you pay more than 30% of your monthly income towards your housing costs, and that includes paying utilities and things like trash pickup and sewer, your housing is considered unaffordable. I focus specifically on rental costs with my research, but there is research in this area as well on mortgages. But in Portland, more than 50% of the population pays more than 30% of their monthly income towards their housing costs. So more than 50% of people in Portland are living in what's considered unaffordable housing. The way that this ties in with kind of the social justice aspect that I'm looking at is that unfortunately in this country, because of a long history of systemic structural programs for racism, the connection between people living in poverty and people of racial minorities is very strong. We tend to see, especially in a city like Portland that's not as diverse, it's getting more diverse, but the poorer populations tend to also be where we find the most racially diverse populations. One thing that's been happening in the last 20 years in Portland specifically is we've seen a growth in population. Portland's population had been on the decline since the 1950s, but in the last 20 years, more people have been moving into Portland, and this has also been a national trend, that people are moving into urban areas more now than they were for a long time. We're no longer interested in the suburbs, we want to live in the cities. The problem with this is that traditional urban populations are no longer able to afford to live in these city centers. As more people move in, demand goes up and housing costs go up. So the poorer and the lower socioeconomic and more racially diverse populations that traditionally live in urban centers are forced to move out, where they have less access to jobs, less access to public transportation, and less access to services. And I'm running out of time, so I'll real quick tell you that inclusionary zoning ordinances are designed to require developers to build a certain number of affordable units within a development for each so many market rate units that they're building. The problem is Portland has an option called in-lieu fees. So the developer can pay a fee of $100,000 per unit instead of building the affordable units. Since this ordinance was passed, almost every single developer has paid that fee. So we are not seeing the affordable units being constructed. The money does go into a fund that the city is supposed to use for affordable housing. The problem is these affordable housing projects that are built with that fund tend to be in concentrated areas of all affordable housing, which does not accomplish anything towards racial and socioeconomic integration. So I will be out there afterwards if anyone has any questions about this, and enjoy the rest of the presentation.